Mike DeCourcy has been letting all of his neighbors know, not about voting on November 5th. He's been letting them know to clear out of Pittsburgh this weekend because Ferrall's coming in for the Steelers home opener, and it is not safe to be in the neighborhood. And everyone should make plans to go on a fall foliage drive out of town, maybe a short weekend down to Florida. Who knows? But he's been warning his neighbors. It is truly an unbelievable development in the Steel City. Of course, Mike with the Sporting News, legendary writer. And, of course, you can catch him during the hoop season on Fox Sports and on the Big Ten Network. He's very popular. And then he's on Coast to Coast every week. Thank God for that. I want to start with and you and I may not agree on this. I want to get and I'm okay with that, Mike. At my age, not agreeing with you on something is a big step for me because I've always loved your work. But I haven't read it. I just saw your article about Luke Fickell. And I already went on record saying yesterday that I think obviously Van Dyke went down and that game was over at that point for them. They weren't ready for that injury and the aftermath of it. And Alabama was just too much for them in Camp Randall. I thought Alabama would have been too much for them in Camp Randall with him. I have never been a Van Dyke fan at Miami. I'm a huge Kane fan my whole life. I never liked him, but I didn't wish that on him, an ACL tear. He'll play in his 35th college football season, I'm sure, next year with eligibility. But my point yesterday was that I think I saw an article, I believe it was by The Athletic. They rated all of the college coaches and put them in tiers. And they put him in the second tier, which there's only two guys in the top tier, like Kirby and Dabo. And then everybody else, the best of the rest, were in tier 2, and then 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They had, I think, 8 tiers. And they had this guy Fickell in the second tier, and I am not having it. I am not having it. I am not having that he is one of the best coaches in America. I've seen no sign of that whatsoever. I am sorry. I'm not buying it.
No sign at all? I mean, what they did at Cincinnati.
No sign at all. Whatever,
is no
Cincinnati.
Sign.
I've seen Cincinnati win before.
Not like that. And certainly not after like that. They have not been good since he left. I think the question really is, I don't know how big the tier is that you saw, but I think the question is that will have to be answered. And for me, what I wrote about is whether that question needs to be answered now in his second season or whether he's on the typical time frame that all coaches used to be before you had the transfer portal igniting everybody's beliefs that we could turn everything around in 1 year. I think that's the question is, can he get some grace, so to speak? And he inherited a program in Wisconsin that was obviously not going in the right direction, or they wouldn't have moved on from Paul Chryst. There was no reason to move on if he was doing a successful job. Everybody liked Paul Chryst. So it wasn't that. They just weren't getting enough good players and winning enough big games. And so he takes over a program that's not in great shape. And then the chemistry of the job changed drastically, Scott, after he took it. And what I mean by that is that the entry of UCLA and USC, and then subsequently Washington and Oregon, led the Big Ten to abandon its East-West format. And when it was East-West, Wisconsin was the best job in the West. All Wisconsin had to do, basically, was be Wisconsin A, and then not have anybody like Iowa Northwestern or someone like that be way more than they ordinarily are. They couldn't have one of those Cincinnati-type years that Cincinnati had in 2019 and 20 and 21. They couldn't have one of those years. And if that happened, Wisconsin was winning the West every time. Then they changed it, so now there are no divisions, and now the schedule is more balanced. So Wisconsin, which played Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State a total of 10 times in the 9 years of the East-West division format. Those three teams, a total of 10 times in the regular season. Now they're going to face multiple games against programs at that level every year, whether it's Ohio State and Penn State or Ohio State and Southern Cal or whatever it might be in a given year. It's almost inescapable that they're going to face teams at that level. And can this Wisconsin, the Wisconsin that Luke Fickell invents, can they handle that? And then the second part of this is talent. The talent that was procured at Cincinnati, guys like Sauce Gardner and Brian Cook and Myjai Sanders, that all became significant draft picks in the NFL. Can they do the same thing with different people at Wisconsin? Because the guys who were in charge of recruiting then at Cincinnati are now working with the Indianapolis Colts, or they're working at Notre Dame. They have different people involved now. Can they be as good?
Fair enough. I'll say this. You talked about the talent he had. He also had a quarterback, and he inherited, I think, a program that didn't have a quarterback. And then he made the choice, obviously, to bring in Van Dyke. And it's unfortunate that the kid got injured. And like I said, he was never good at Miami. And now he's at Wisconsin. So here's kind of the afterthought of this whole thing. And I don't deny that guy can coach, but being one of the best in the country, I haven't seen it certainly I haven't seen it in Madtown. And then I see Signetti get the job in Bloomington, and they have a wretched football program, and it has always been wretched, and it's been terrible. The only time they ever went to the Rose Bowl was 1967 until they went last Saturday and kicked UCLA's ass. Now he's got a guy in Signetti at Indiana who in 2 games is scoring like the New Orleans Saints, and they have a quarterback. And that guy's been there 5 minutes, and he's doing a better job than Luke Fickell.
Well, first of all, he has done a significant job of energizing the program. He used the transfer portal really well, brought with him, I guess is a better way to phrase it, a lot of James Madison players who were very successful there, brought them to the Big Ten. The schedule to this point has been advantageous. What we need to see over the course of the next month or so, they have a home game coming up against Maryland at the end of this month, and then early next month they have Nebraska coming in. Those are the games that will define Indiana's football season. If they can split them, they're going to have a really nice year. If they can win them both, they're going to have a phenomenal year and might even be competitive for one of the last spots in the college football playoff. If they don't win either, then it's year one. We're just getting started with this. We're going to be good in time. But those are the 3 designations for those 3 games. As long as they don't stumble, Charlotte, there's no reason why they should stumble. And then they have a Northwestern trip as well packed into the next month. But those 2 games in particular are the ones that are going to define the Hoosiers.
So respectfully here, let's switch to your soccer hire for the U.S. men's national team. Yay or nay on this deal?
Oh, I'm all in on this. I think it was a great choice. Mauricio Pochettino, there are some people in there's always got to be somebody that's negative, right, Scott? I mean, there has to be. There are some people who are trying to push back at him, saying he hasn't won that much. Look, he went into basically he took over what was a high mid-major program, is how we would define it. If Tottenham Hotspur or an American college, they would be a high mid-major program, maybe a low high major program, somewhere in there. They had made the Champions League one time in the 30 years prior to Mauricio Pochettino arriving. 1 year into his tenure, he starts a run of 4 consecutive Champions League performances. And what you have to do in order to get in Champions League is you have to be one of the top 4 teams in the Premier League.
Right.
So you have to pass up Manchester United or Chelsea or somebody to be one of the top 4, and he did it 4 years in a row, and he made the final in 2019, beating Manchester City along the way. He is a terrific coach. They're going to do very well under him. It's just how good are the players? They're better than we've had as a group, but now they're going to have to be pushed to be really competitive. There's been too much cruising in that team when they get to camp. Now they have to really put the pedal down.